I had been working late on my computer. It was close to about 3 a.m. when I had finished. About 5 minutes later, I heard a knock on the door, and thinking who this was, I got up to open it. What I saw shocked me in a way I will never forget. It was my friend Jose. Now, the reason this shocked me so much is that Jose had gone missing over 10 years ago and was presumed to be dead, and now he was standing here on my doorstep. Before I could say a word, he walked in and sat down on the couch. When I got my mind right again, I started to feel anger, so I just yelled, "Man, 10 years and you turn up on my doorstep. We all thought you were dead." Then after saying that, he just turned to me and laughed, saying, "Maybe I am." I asked him, "What the hell does that mean?" He laughed again and said he was joking. Calming down a bit, I finally got a good look at him. He had not aged a day since the last time I saw him. I then asked, "Where have you been all these years?" But he did not answer me at first. He just stared and smiled, then slowly got up, walked over to me, looked at me and said, "I have been in hell, man." He then again laughed, like it was a funny joke. After that, he started to walk back into the laundry room, so I grabbed him on the shoulder and my hand burned like it was touching a hot plate. That's when I knew what I was dealing with was not human. Not to alarm it, I tried to play along and find out what he wanted and why he took the form of my best friend from years ago. So I asked it why after all this time he decided to show up. He turned and looked, saying, "I have some things to take care of." He did not answer. He again just looked at me with a sly smile on his face, like he knew something I did not. Then trying to bait it, which I know now it's a bad idea, I said we should call its parents. He just turned calmly and said, "If you try, I'll kill you where you stand." This is when I truly knew it was not him, but some sort of demon or entity, so I decided to confront it. I said to it, "I know what you are." It just laughed at me and said, "Really? What am I then?" That's when his eyes took on the color of the darkest black I've ever seen. He walked over to me, grabbed me by my throat and picked me up like I was a 2-year-old child and threw me into the chair behind me. He looked at me and said, "Do you want to know what really happened to Jose?" He said that Jose was dead 2 weeks after he went missing, and that he was the demon that took him. I was 16 at the time, and I had made it a regular habit of sneaking out at night and hanging out with friends, like most teenagers my age, I suppose. This night, I was with my boyfriend at the time, and we were just taking a stroll around my neighborhood in Northern California. Keep in mind that I may have been sneaking out, but I didn't drink or do drugs, so my judgment was completely unaltered. It was 3 a.m., and we were on a fairly lit street, when out of nowhere I heard a distinct whooshing sound coming from up above us. It sounded like strong wings flapping. I looked up and was horrified to find what looked to be exactly like what the Jersey's devil is described as. He was flying low, so I got a real good look at him. His wingspan was the size of a small car, and he looked to be 7.5 feet tall at least. The legs and head looked like that of a beast's, but the torso was a big man's with broad shoulders. I saw his wings flap again once, but he mostly glided rather gracefully. But that's the only part about him that I would describe as graceful. I screamed out, "Oh my god, look!" within the first 2 seconds, and my boyfriend got a real good look at him too. I think the demon, creature, whatever, heard me because when that happened, he swooped down below the telephone pole and he disappeared as he passed the wiring. Keep in mind that this was a well-lit area with no trees. We should have seen him pass the other side clearly, but as his body passed the electric wire, he vanished like he was going through a door or something. I didn't sneak out anymore. Look under your bed. There's a like button. You know what to do. I have always been kinda sensitive and could feel, hear, and see things since I was a little girl. Some people might say I have a good imagination. The absolute scariest encounter I've ever had was when I was 19. It was a few months after I had my son. I'll explain how my room was kinda set up so you can better imagine what it was like. I had my bed in a corner, but it was at an angle coming from the far corner of the room. I had no frame to set my bed on, so he was sitting in the floor. Now mind you, my son is about 2.5 to 3 months at the time. He had his own room, but every time I would lay him in his bed at night, whether he was awake or fast asleep, I couldn't leave him in the room for more than a few minutes because he would cry out in terror, and every time I would go to get him, I would feel this evil feeling like something was trying to get my baby. Also, I mentioned I grew up in a very religious family. We are Mennonite. Anyways, one night I was fed up with it and I stuck my son in his car seat to go to sleep because he felt comfortable in it. I've always been paranoid when it comes to my son. I am always worried someone will break in and kidnap him. So therefore, I put him on the other side of my bed in the corner. So I went to bed around 2 in the morning. I was fed up with whatever was carrying my baby, so before trying to go to sleep I said out loud, "I'm not afraid of you, Satan. You're just a bully and you don't scare me." Shortly after, I was trying to go to sleep and it was approximately 45 minutes after I said that. I was facing on my side towards my son and I was almost asleep. I got a chill through my whole body and a terrifying feeling. It was paralyzing. I heard a deep breathing behind me and I could feel the breath on my hair. I also smelled sulfur. I finally get the courage to turn around 30 seconds after I felt that. I saw almost like a gray-colored gargoyle-looking creature next to me with wings, and it was crouched down beside me. I tried to scream, but literally nothing came out, so I just lifted my feet up to my chest, turned a little, and just kicked as hard as I could, and I kicked it in the chin, and it literally flew back. Immediately after I did that, the feeling left my body and I could scream. My mom and dad told me that my scream was so terrifying that they got chills from it. They ran into my room. My mom immediately started praying. I couldn't go to sleep, so I went downstairs. I brought my son with me. I fell asleep on the couch. I was asleep and I felt the feeling come back. I was standing in my room and I was looking in the mirror. I saw the gargoyle again, only standing up behind me. I said, "What do you want?" And he said in the creakiest voice, "You." After he said that, I started crying in my sleep and I said, "Why?" It said, "Your mother's going to kill you." I ran out of my room and it was as if I was outside my body. I could see myself sleeping. I shook myself and woke up. It was morning. I called my friend from church and told her the story. I asked her what she thought of it. The reply still terrifies me to this day. On the other end of the phone, it was the voice again. It said, "Your mother's going to kill you." I threw the phone down and woke up right away. I had only been asleep less than an hour. I never fell back asleep after that. The next day, my mom had called her pastor and he brought some people from the church. They walked around and cleaned their house and they prayed over my son and I. That night, my son was able to sleep in his bed.